Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. Joining me today, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is today we're going to be talking about the full season 1 of X-Men 97, which wrapped up this last week. If you want, we'll probably not cover the first few episodes in too much detail since we did another episode of that already. If you want more thoughts on that, you can go back to episode 210 of that D Plus show where we talked about those first few episodes. But we will talk about kind of the season as a whole, so some of those things might come up. But yeah, this we both are hot off finishing it this week, so it seemed like the right thing to chat about.
The world is hot off finishing it.
Indeed, yes. Why do we pick it? Because it is the MCU thing, and it was an MCU thing that seems to be largely universally beloved compared to a lot of the MCU for the last few years. So shout out to that. Some of the history lesson here. Originally released starting March 20th, 2024, and wrapping up here May 15th. The runtime for the episodes ran between 30 minutes and 43 minutes. So good, healthy chunks of time each one, especially because that, is more time than any of the original episodes would have had through with commercials, obviously. In the Marvel Studios animated timeline, we had What If Season 1 back in August through October 2021. I Am Groot Season 1, August 2022. I Am Groot Season 2, September 2023. What If Season 2, December of 2023. X-Men 97 here, March through May 2024. And then we have a few TBD slated animated series coming up, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Marvel Zombies, and Eyes of Wakanda. No firm dates for any of those, but those are seemingly the next things on the slate, animation-wise. And also, as alluded to here at the end of this, we'll eventually be getting a Season 2 of X-Men 97. Whether they keep calling it X-Men 97 or dub it X-Men 98, who knows? But we will be getting more, seemingly. Which will indicate we are also going to be full spoilers, as we pretty much always are for that D Plus show, but bear that in mind. Roll call here. A lot of this is going to be the same as it was a few weeks ago when we covered, but I have added some new people into the mix, especially on the acting side of characters that hadn't yet debuted in those first few episodes. But our directors remain the same, Jake Castorena, Chase Conley, and Emi Yonemura, who directed the first few episodes themselves. Jake Castorena only ever directed the first episode, To Me, My X-Men. He had also directed some DC animated stuff, including Batman Unlimited, Justice League Action, and The Death of Superman, Reign of Superman, and as well as the Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Chase Conley had previously, we talked about, directed Mutant Liberation Begins. He went on to also direct the Motendo / Life Death Part 1 episode, as well as Life Death Part 2, and Tolerance is Extinction Parts 1 and 3. Other projects he'd worked on: Golan the Insatiable, Axe Cop, Major Lazer, and Kip and the Age of Wonder Beasts. And Emi Yonemura had previously directed Fire Made Flesh. She also went on to direct Remember It, Bright Eyes, and Tolerance is Extinction Part 2. And also prior to that had worked on a few episodes of Genlock. Rest in peace, Rooster Teeth. Our writers here, we previously discussed Bo DeMaio as the showrunner. They ended up being the showrunner for the entire series, but also the writer on everything except Life Death Part 2, Bright Eyes, and Tolerance is Extinction Part 2. Other credits of theirs include The Witcher, Moon Knight, and Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Charlie Feldman, we talked about previously, having written Fire Made Flesh, also wrote Motendo, Life Death Parts 1 and 2, and Bright Eyes. Previous credits from Charlie include Honest Trailers, Teen Titans Go, Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock, Harriet the Spy, and Young Jedi Adventures. New to the mix here, we have J.B. Ballard, who also wrote on the Bright Eyes episode. They don't have a lot in the way of previous writing credits, but they were a production slash writer's room assistant on projects like The Kids Are All Right, Shameless, and Moon Knight. And Anthony Salidi wrote Tolerance is Extinction Parts 1, 2, and 3, and really only had a couple of prior self-produced slash self-directed shorts to their name that they also wrote on. So, coming out swinging for a 3-part X-Men episode finale.
How you get that gig, man? Yeah.
Our cast of characters here, many of which we talked about initially, but I'll highlight when we move into the new territory. Ray Chase as Cyclops, taking over the role from Norma Spencer of the original series. Done a ton of anime and gaming work, including maybe most notably Noctis from Final Fantasy 15. Jennifer Hale as Jean Grey / Madeline Pryor. When we first talked about her, she had really only been Madeline Pryor. She is also taking over the role from Catherine Disher of the original X-Men animated series cast. A ton of gaming and animation credits, including Fem Shep from Mass Effect. Allison Seeley Smith as Storm, one of the original returning cast members, with many other assorted credits over the years back to 1991. Cal Dodd also returning as Wolverine from the original series, with assorted credits going back to 1984. And Lenore Zan as Rogue, another returning original cast member, with assorted credits going back to 1979. Back into new territory, we have Matthew Watterson for Magneto, taking over the role from David Hemblin, with assorted VO credits, including stuff in Starfield, Diablo 4, and Hogwarts Legacy from just last year. George Buza as Beast, another returning cast member, with assorted credits going back to 1985, including Ewoks, Maniac Mansion, and The Adventures of Sinbad. He's also a cameo in the 2000 X-Men movie as the trucker that gives Rogue a ride. J.P. Karliak as Morph, taking over the role from Rob Rubin of the original cast. Other assorted roles going back to 2001, including the boss baby in the animated series of projects. AJ Locascio as Gambit, taking over the role from Chris Potter and Tony Daniels, who played the role in the original cast. He has various credits going back to 2007, including Marty McFly in the Back to the Future Telltale game that happened basically right before Telltale blew up with Walking Dead. He's also been Han Solo in some of the more recent Lego Star Wars stuff. As has another cast member who's in here later. Isaac Robinson Smith as Bishop, taking over the role from Philip Aiken of the original X-Men cast, with credits going back to 2014, including Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. Holly Chu as Jubilee, taking over the role from Alison Court of the original cast, was Akame in Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. And the last one we previously mentioned, Val Cooper, played by Catherine Disher, who was the original Jean Grey, and has assorted credits going back to 1986. So some of the new characters that we've had, Ross Marquand as Professor X, who obviously was not in the first half of the series here, taking over from Cedric Smith of the original series. He's also been in The Walking Dead. He's been in the Avengers / MCU, starting with Infinity War when he took over the role of Red Skull. And he's also kind of continued that in the What If animated stuff, as well as playing Ultron. He's also in Invincible, and he also, I believe, is one of those actors that has played Han Solo in Lego stuff recently. Gui Agostini, I could have called out in the original one, but ended up being a more prominent role as the series went on, so he's playing Roberto / Sunspot. Not a ton of credits to his name, some miscellaneous stuff, the most notable one being like the local population in Grand Theft Auto 5. Adrian Huff as Nightcrawler, reprising his role from the original show. He's also Haytham Kenway in the Assassin's Creed series, starting in Assassin's Creed 3.
Huh.
Yeah. Chris Potter as Cable took over the role from Lawrence Bain. His most notable credit appears to be a Canadian soap or some Canadian show called Heartland, which he's been in like 270 plus episodes for the last 20 years, almost 30 years.
Shout out to that career.
Yeah. Chris Britton plays Mr. Sinister, reprising the role as Mr. Sinister from the original series, and has a number of miscellaneous credits going back to 1979. Theo James played Bastion here. He was in the Divergent series of films. He's also Hector in the animated series of Castlevania, which I know you enjoy, Cam.
Yep.
And he is recently seen in the Gentleman series based on the Guy Ritchie film of the same name. And lastly, a fun little one here. Alison Court, who I mentioned earlier was the original Jubilee, returns as Abscissa, a.k.a. the Old Jubilee, in the Motendo episode. She's also been Claire Redfield in a number of Resident Evil projects going back to Resident Evil 2.
So awesome. Yeah. Just such a great Easter egg.
Good fun little use of the original voice actor in an older role. Older version of the character. So I include some trivia kind of in the original. I've got a little bit more here, but if you really want like trivia among the series, go watch any number of the like everything you may have missed in episode of X-Men 97.
Yeah, there is so much,
so many cameos, and I pulled just in Tolerance's Extinction Part 3 alone, we get cameos of Iron Man, Captain America, Doctor Strange, Cloak and Dagger, Silver Samurai, Black Panther, Crimson Dynamo, Darkstar, Omega Red, Peter Parker, Mary Jane, Flash Thompson, Daredevil, as well as silhouettes of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in Magnus's little mind prison with Rogue, alongside Polaris is the other figure on the boat there. And then we also have Morph's various cameo kind of inserts over the course of the series. Again, in the final episode alone, he turns into the Dino baddie Sauron, as well as Reed Richards / Mr. Fantastic.
In episode 2, in section 2, he turns into the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, across the series, like I've seen dedicated like channels and TikTok reels, and again, not TikTok reels, but I see them as like Instagram reels or whatever, that are basically like, here's every character he's cameoed as so far. And yeah, like Sabretooth is in there, the Blob, the Hulk, just kind of, because I never knew Morph's abilities also extended to being able to like do the things that those characters can do.
The dangerous part about Morph's ability is that like if he doesn't know how to control it, like he's screwed.
Yeah. Also he turns into Jean Grey in the final episode to have a little love scene with Wolverine.
You know it.
Yeah.
Shout out to my comment the last time we did it, where I was like, I love that they're going whole hog on this. It's great.
Yeah.
What's up with shapeshifters wanting Wolverine, Mystique, Morph?
In the finale, we get a glimpse of the Magneto protocols, and the dossier of which lists some aliases for Eric Magnus Lensher, including fun little Easter eggs here: David Hemblin, the original voice actor, Ian M. redacted, aka Ian McKellen, and Michael F. redacted, aka Michael Fassbender.
So good.
It was a lovely little like freeze, and you can see those extra names. It's like nice. I especially like the David Hemblin one, not redacted, and is like just an homage to the original voice actor of the character. And obviously we get a lot of Apocalypse set up for season 2 that's coming. So including bringing back Gambit as the seemingly angel horseman of death, with the post credits tease that Cameron almost didn't watch.
I almost didn't watch it. Thank you for that.
Of Apocalypse dusting off and finding the Queen of Diamonds card, or Queen of Hearts, I don't remember. Some Queen playing card that's very clearly like Gambit's coming back and fulfilling the vision that Charles had in space.
Yep.
So yeah, that's all I pulled here for trivia. A lot of it being just kind of last episode centric stuff. But Cam, what did you think of the full season now that we've seen it all of X-Men 97?
What an incredible season of television.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had my concerns. Like, how are you going to bring back what was somewhat of a very my concerns that I mentioned in the first episode, where I was like, wow, this is really good. I've been blown away. Every single episode continues to blow me away. The weakest ones were the split that they did of Aurora.
The Motendo / Life Death Part 1, yeah.
Yeah, and splitting up Life Death Part 1 and 2 felt like a bad idea. But it's fine. It still plays just fine because Part 2 is like motivational as hell. Like Aurora overcoming so much and doing what she needs to do. The revelation of like the demon that is like tied to Forge's backstory, all of this, and her being haunted by it, and then just recovering her powers that way were just so incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such an incredible moment to see her get her full character arc for the season is phenomenal. Everybody's character arc for the season is really phenomenal. Logan's, even though it's much more in the background, him very much like having the opportunity to get what he wants, which is get Jean, but choosing to be the bigger man, like choosing to be a better man and a bigger man about it than when Jean kisses him. And it's just like a moment of him like, you slipped up. Like, this wasn't anything. I'm not reading into it. Don't be with Scott. And it's like him being like this adult about it, where I feel like, and not just like him, like it's such a great character growth, where normally in the previous show, he's always been the short, angry guy, like, oh, I'm not getting the girl. And here he has an opportunity to like really be a dick. And it just shows that at his core, Logan is a good guy. He's a good man and a good guy. And like, this is the stuff that really like makes him the best. Like, he's the best at what he does, but the best thing that he does is he looks out for other people. And
heals.
And
I
heals.
like that call out with Scott, late at the late in the series.
Also being there to support Scott with everybody being there to support Scott with the trauma that he's going through, of like freaking awesome the way that they do that. Also with it's difficult. Jean and Madeline don't really know where one ends and the other begins. We know that Jean is Jean because of the test that Beast did.
Also, shout out, I didn't see this until yesterday, but I don't know if you noticed the intro during the opening sequence, the hairstyle that the Jean Grey intro has in the first few episodes changes when she becomes actually Jean Grey, starting in episode 4. So it's like episodes 1 through 3, it's the thlong hair down, and episode 4 moving onward, it's tied back in kind of her ponytail look. And it's like they throw in so many cool little details and Easter eggs for the episode you're about to watch in the opening. That's and so shout out to the fact that you correctly identified some of that stuff, and I misremembered, or I poo-pooed you on it incorrectly the first episode we had about this. I did a mea culpa in the follow-up, but if you've only joined us for the X-Men episodes here, I was dismissive of Cameron's thoughts on the opening credit stuff because I was wrong.
Well, it's I just remember it being a kid, that was how you knew who was going to be showing up in the episode, was who showed up. Because if Bishop showed up, that meant that you had it was a Days of Future Past episode. Because when they went into Sanctification, newsflash, they didn't put them always in order.
Yeah,
that was a problem back then in the 90s with cartoons.
Not even just putting it in syndication. When the episodes originally aired, they didn't air in order.
That's true.
I mean, even here, there's a throwback to that with Life Death Part 1 happening, and then a whole other episode happening, and then Life Death Part 2.
Yeah,
yeah,
that is a problem with the old X-Men cartoons. So, the opening was as a kid was my clue of knowing what kind of episode it was. Yeah, but I just love the way that they've carried through with that, with just their billions of Easter eggs. But everybody's character growth in this season has been amazing. You have the absolute devastating tragedy that is Remy died not knowing that Rogue chose him. And there's layers of tragedy in this show. Like
Sure.
Magneto telling Leech everything's going to be okay, don't worry. And then the follow up when he talks to Charles, he said, I told a boy, I lied to him that everything was going to be okay, and then I watched his eyeballs get vaporized out of his skull. And it's like, they are holding back zero punches, and it is some of the best X-Men work we've gotten in years. X-Men as a comic is notoriously difficult to get into because of the layers of, you need to, like, this character's coming back up, and it's like, yeah, but this character has, and it's like, oh, well, they bring up, like, this character's backstory like it happened yesterday. This character hasn't showed up since 1976. So if you really, like, want to know everything about X-Men, you have to know this library of information and knowledge that not even I know everything about. And, like, I tried to. Trust me, I tried. But because I, like, up until Hope Summers shows up in, or post-Hope in the comics, I was, like, up to date with everything. And then it blew up even more, and, like, into, like, 8 different comic books lines. And I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I loved how, like, the big bads you have over the course of the season. You have, like, Executioner in the opening little bit. You have Mr. Sinister. You have Bastion, especially on the back half. And, like, apart from, like, the Sentinels, I didn't know any of that shit. Like, I knew the name Mr. Sinister, like, and I'd seen his design and stuff, but, like, I, as a much more casual kind of X-Men fan, who, as we talked about in the last episode, only vaguely remembers watching the original versions, or the original X-Men animated series stuff. I loved just how, like, this, like, almost took no prisoners, but it also, like, if you were behind, or you didn't know what was going on, or you didn't catch references that they were making maybe to the original series, it's like you weren't necessarily punished for that. It was still, they give you enough to be able to come into this blind. And I mean, we talked about it in again in the last episode, like the Charles being in space for the first half of the season, and then we finally get to him.
Yeah, I misremember. By the way, shout out to my making a mistake. I remember Charles Xavier getting shot. And so when they're like, Charles Xavier's dead, I was like, oh, that's right, Charles died. And it's like, oh no, I totally forgot. Like, he gets uplifted by the Shi'ar because it's like, if he stays here, he'll die. But I can take him and save his life. And I'm like, oh, okay, I completely forgot about that. So when the episode starts off and it's like, the Emperor of the Shi'ar Empire, my consort, Charles Xavier, I was like, oh, I had to, like, stop, Google some stuff, and be like, what happened?
Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, it was such a, like, a wild but also loving, like, yeah, like, let's do this as a continuation of that original series, and, like, pick up and continue on with threads that, you know, were established or were introduced, but we can do it with everything we've learned about comics in the last, 30 years. And also with the improvements of animation and technology, and like writing, and like the writing of this easily better than I'm sure anything that is in those original stuff, apart from maybe, like, the most iconic moments or beats or anything like that. But it is, like, the fact that this had, like, significant heft behind it instead of Saturday morning cartoon heft, I think really helped benefit just the, like, quality of the show.
Yeah.
In terms of it really on like, it was firing on all cylinders. You also have like even when it, like, leans into the cheesiness of X-Men, or the, like, Scott's always the good guy. I love that there are moments in here where, like, Scott gets pissed and is like,
yeah,
maybe we shouldn't have been, fighting for our existence just to placate you people. Well, kind of stuff.
He's being asked these questions right after he just abandoned his son to the future.
Yeah. And found out his wife hasn't been his wife, kind of thing. Yeah.
Like, it's a whole thing.
Like, it more than anything really shines a light that they're still human. Like, yes, they're mutants, but they are, in their nature, they go through all the same things humans go through, kind of stuff.
We get to see Scott be, I think this is the best portrayal of Scott Summers Cyclops on screen ever. Like
Sure.
like in the
I mean,
old cartoons, he was Boy
because they-
Scout, like no nonsense, kind of like just like very cardboard cutout generic character. And then in the movies, he never really got a spot to shine. Outside the more recent ones that are unfortunately just quality wise weren't very good. I found I forgot the actor's name, but I felt like Cyclops.
James Marsden.
No, not James Marsden. The one for who plays young Cyclops.
In the gotcha.
And the later ones, yeah.
Yeah, he was in Ready Player One of my favorite movies. Oh my God, I forget his name.
I forgot his name. He is absolutely incredible as Cyclops. He does such a great job with that role. But unfortunately, he's just in a really bad movie.
Yeah.
Same thing with like
Kai Sheridan.
Yeah, same thing with Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. Phenomenal portrayal as Jean Grey, but like those are bad movies.
I mean, we're both saying this, or you're saying this rather. Neither of us have seen Dark Phoenix.
Oh, that's true.
Like that. Like
maybe I have to hold my tongue on that one. Yeah.
Especially because like they had a second go at the storyline, same guy, and made it worse. Did not learn any of the things that he should have learned from X-Men Last Stand. Like they're. I'll say like, oh, the new class, the first class era of performers, like, I mean, just like James Marsden, also a good performer and like, good as Scott, but they always made the X-Men movies too much about Wolverine, and so Scott ends up being like the bad guy in comparison in that love triangle kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, and especially with James Marsden basically being perennially that guy who like loses the girl to the other guy in the movie over his career.
Well, to be fair, he doesn't lose to Wolverine. I
mean, sure, yeah. She ultimately dies, but still, like, loses her too much to Wolverine.
Yeah.
And becomes very much the afterthought in his own relationship.
Which is where I think they totally, I think, for the first time, nailed the balance of the love triangle between the three of them. I think so well here.
I think in large part it was a concentrated effort to like tamp down the Wolverine in this. It's like, hey, Wolverine's gotten his time to shine. He's been the most prominent X-Men for the last 40 years. Let's go ahead and let him kind of focus on him and have a little more spotlight on a wider cast of characters here. And I think it benefits pretty much everybody across the board, while also still giving Wolverine some great moments to shine, especially when you get into like some of the fight stuff.
Oh yeah.
When you have one of the best fights of the series is probably when you have like him and Nightcrawler just running through Sentinel Primes and to try and protect Rogue.
It's so good.
Yeah.
The two of like his combos with just about everybody, including Scott, are awesome as hell. And then you get like the very final episode where it's just like Magneto is gonna go off, and like, what does Wolverine do?
Stabs him from behind.
Yeah, like unceremoniously tries to murder Magneto
with a great line of like, I've fought in a lot of wars, bub. The brave always die first, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like it's like such great history of his character, but also of the character between him and Magneto, and then the like devastating like freeze frame at the end of that episode of them going full. Let's rip the adamantium out of Wolverine.
We're doing that storyline. Yeah, next season. I'm excited for that. For me, it is also a Rogue like tackling Wolverine when he goes for Magneto and being like, "You're out to like I'm stopping you and like I'm holding you down," and he goes, "Rogue," and she goes, "You're out to kill. You went to Magneto, like you were trying to kill Magneto. Like that's not cool. Like." Like everybody else is trying to get him to stand down, you're going for a kill. But that's a great like kind of like Easter egg. So it's not like out of nowhere Wolverine kills him. Or tries to kill him. It's it is a like setup that Wolverine is going into this fight to kill Magneto.
Yeah.
Against the wishes of everybody else.
It also is a nice little bit of foreshadowing where everybody in the final episode trying to kill Bastion until Scott finally is like, we got to stop fighting the future. We got to like like we got to do what we've always said we're trying to do, and like, you know, extend the olive branch. It's like, all right, but yeah, he has been a genocidal maniac. Like, I do appreciate that the villain Bastion is self-aware enough
Yeah.
to call out how the absurdity of that. Um,
But that's kind of the thing about it, is it's Scott
it's
owning the mission.
yeah,
It's Scott
exactly.
being like, yeah, no, this is absurd. But and then like
But we have to be better.
Yeah,
We have to be better. Yeah.
We have to be the hope for the future. And if Bastion's willing to stand down, then we need to accept that. But Bastion's not willing to stand down, and that's what leads to the, you know, the ending. But
Well, I would say more the U.S. sending, you know, missiles up to asteroid M is what leads to
true.
Um,
Massive shout out to the cameos that they bring in. Black Panther, King T'Challa telling him, if you say yes to this,
T'Chaka.
T'Chaka
is the one in this one, yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough. When King T'Chaka's looking at him and says to him, like, if you do this, like, you will.
Let's hope the history books look fonder on us.
Yeah, like for you to do this, like, yeah, it's Captain America being like saying like we shouldn't do this.
Yeah. Then
Like-
when we come back, Tony Stark, Iron Man, also in the room for that. Yeah, again, great cameos across the board, but in particular in the episode, and like those were like fun elements all throughout. Like,
Yes.
the first one that probably popped me was Rogue, you know, in her rampage following Gambit's death, facing off against Captain America.
So
it was a great, like, oh shit, right, we are in this like shared universe of the, you know, the 90s animated timeline of things.
Where we had an Avengers and an Iron Man cartoon and
Yeah.
a Hulk cartoon. So like these
shout
things-
out Josh Keaton, I believe voices Captain America here.
Does a
I
great
believe
job.
he's also voiced him in some of the What If stuff, since they didn't get
Yeah.
Chris Evans, and also obviously he's a spectacular Spider-Man, and got to do a little cameo in Invincible recently.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to Josh Keaton, just having a good year for animation stuff.
This is just such a good year for animation stuff. This has just been such a fantastic show. I can't wait. You mentioned it, I think, last night. Like we both really hope that it's going to be called X-Men '98.
I mean, I don't really particularly have a preference what they do one way or the other. I think from like an SEO perspective, that would be a weird, silly choice to make.
That's fair.
And because effectively, I mean, it's also this, it's a weird thing that like even Doctor Who is doing right now, where like the new series of Doctor Who is the third Doctor Who show that you'll find on IMDb. There's like the, you know, the classic years, then there's like New Who of starting with the Ninth Doctor, and then now starting with Nchuti Gatwa, the like, that is a whole nother new series starting up. It's like, all right, but like it's all the same show, everybody, so stop being weird. So the fact that like there's already X-Men the animated series and X-Men 97, if X-Men 97 only ends up being these 10 episodes and then we move to X-Men 98 next year and it's a whole other show, it's like, all right, like, do we need to like keep doing single things? And there's probably also like a weird, you know, I imagine there are weird other writing and contract things that would maybe prevent doing that too, but
yeah, we'll see what happens with it. I think that is just a cool. I would thought it was a cool idea.
yeah.
But yeah, no, honestly, I'm so stoked for the next season. I think that this has such the potential to be the, like, shout out to the Marvels being the kind of like after credits introduction to this stuff. But I'm super involved in whatever they do going forward. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's fantastic. I really cannot get enough of it. The 3-part finale is some of the best stuff that they've ever done in Marvel, period. Like, what a phenomenal 3-part finale that I forgot who I heard it from. I think it might have been from Kind of Funny when they brought it up, but they're like, there's dialogue here that if it was in an MCU movie, people would get it tattooed on their body. Like, there is just, and I know I was talking to John yesterday when I got fired and I went over to his house. When I headed over there and I was talking to him about it, I was like, and he was like, yeah, I haven't caught up with it. I was like, I'm just going to tell you, man, there's like a scene where a human being, an actual human, sees like what saw was like sees some stuff that happens and like outright says Magneto was right. And it's
Oh, so you just spoiled stuff for
I just told him
John.
that I just told him a human says Magneto was right. I didn't give any more detail about that. Because I don't like he's not gonna be like, what the heck is like what could cause that to happen? I don't know. Watch the show, John. But no, it's one of the best goddamn shows that they've done in a long time. It's the best Marvel thing I think they've put on Disney Plus. I'll throw that out there. I think that's the case for me.
I, in large part, because I don't have like the nostalgia necessarily for the original animated series, I probably still prefer like Loki and WandaVision to this, but it's easily like the top tier of stuff, and certainly has more thought behind it than so many of the other. I mean, like Tim, I think it kind of funny talked about it as like this is probably one of the best like legacy sequel kind of things that's ever been done. And I definitely agree with that sentiment of like the fact that this is a sequel to an almost 30-year-old animated series is baffling. And a 30-year-old animated series that like very few people have actually seen or remember in detail beyond the opening theme and how great that music is. Like the love and care that was put into this in honor of its kind of source material is definitely impressive. Yeah. I also want to shout out specifically the art style in the Motendo episode and the like loving recreation of the X-Men arcade game kind of sequences and looks and vibes and stuff like that. Like the fact that they fully leaned in on like Jubilee's like teen mall rat kind of vibe.
Love it. It was so good.
And what like, you know, the even looking at the Motendo as kind of an of the era, you know, gaming system thing was such a great little shout out to the nostalgia of that aspect of things as well. But yeah, great stuff here. I mean, yeah, I think again, some of the stuff that really is going to stand out for me is just how like beautiful the action looked, like especially for like I guess probably like 2D animation kind of stuff. But like clearly the like homages that they, you know, and you know other like this is not animation that lives in a vacuum. This is animation that is drawing from inspiration in anime and drawing from inspiration in all sorts of other kind of forms of medium. Also, shout out to the callback Easter egg from X-Men 2000 when Cable and Cyclops are getting a costume for Cable, and Cyclops is like, "What'd you expect? Black leather?"
Which is such a great callback to "What'd you expect? Spandex" in the original X-Men film. God, it's so good. Yeah, it's so good. Shout out to the OG costumes that they put on. Also pointed out, I want to give a shout out to people on the internet who pointed out it's super weird that there's just random wigs on the mannequins.
Sure. Yeah.
Like shout out to people being like, it's kind of weird that there's just like wigs on the mannequins.
Yeah. Any other anything else you want to give shout outs to before we dive into the report card?
Can I just shout out everything? God, it's such a brilliant show. I can't give it a big enough recommendation, so people should definitely check it out.
Sure. Indeed, yeah. So report card grade from A+ to F. I'm guessing you want to just throw this right into A+ territory.
This is 100% A+ territory. It is the best of what anything of like this could possibly be. The love, tender care put into it. Production team did a phenomenal job. Voice team was impeccable. And just the absolute delivery that they brought for it and the kind of hype that I have for the setup for the second season, unparalleled. Like I cannot wait. This is a great example of when week to week television, like streaming television stuff works and does it in spades. So
yeah, I agree. A+ for me as well. So so much great stuff in here. So much, again, care and attention paid to these characters, and while also still being like, oh my god, in 10 episodes they went through so many storylines
Yeah.
and did them expertly. Like the we talked about it a little bit the first go around, but like the fact that we got the Jean Grey, Madeline Pryor stuff done so succinctly and in a way that like made like good and perfect sense over just a few episodes, and also had lingering ramifications on the rest of the season, compared to like,
Oh, the fact that
if
they made Madeline Pryor an important character.
yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
if they did that over the course of a movie, they wouldn't be able to do it
No.
as effectively. Um, Even if it was just a movie dedicated to that arc and that storyline kind of thing, like it would never survive scrutiny. And so shout out to that, while also realizing like that's probably a multi-year arc in the comics or something that they sandwiched into 80-90 minutes of the animated stuff. So yeah, just incredible stuff here. And yeah, I look forward to seeing where, like, this more than anything has made me want to actually go back and like bone up and rewatch the original animated series. And I will probably try and do that before season 2 comes in particular, because I know like with all the Apocalypse stuff going into season 2, it's like, well, they did Apocalypse stuff in the original series. So like,
Yeah.
it's a matter of wanting to go in and figure out how they're going to do something different, how they aren't just going to retread what they've already done Apocalypse wise.
Yeah.
So yeah, excited to dive in and check that stuff out.
Oh, also the best way they've ever done Nightcrawler's abilities.
Sure. Yeah.
Nightcrawler was an MVP. Like, teleportation's so goddamn good.
Yeah. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. Obviously, X-Men the animated series, Wolverine and the X-Men, X-Men Evolution, Fantastic Four the animated series, Silver Surfer, The Fury Files, the 1994 Spider-Man animated series that ties into this universe, as well as the 1994 Iron Man animated series that ties into this universe. Shout out to all that. And I love that they were able to just kind of do all of those other cameos and like fold them into this stuff, probably most notably with the Captain America Rogue stuff, in terms of like actually giving stuff. But then there is also one of the Easter eggy things in the finale is in the original animated series of Spider-Man, it ends on a cliffhanger of like Peter and Mary Jane, like where's Mary Jane at? And the fact that she ends this series with Peter there, seemingly is tying up that loose thread from a whole other animated series of the era.
The thoughts, man, they're putting into this. It's not just a cameo; it's a confirmation that yes, this happened after the finale. Like,
yeah,
it's just brilliant.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
Good stuff. Extracurriculars, you watching anything else on Disney Plus there, Cam?
No, I just barely watched this yesterday, so.
Yeah. I've watched the first couple of episodes of Doctor Who that dropped last week.
That's next on my list right there.
And yeah, I imagine that will probably be next week's episode of that D Plus show. We'll circle back and talk about those and probably this week's third episode. It was a weird thing because like the notification I got on Friday was like, check out the 3-episode premiere. And I was like, oh, you dropped 3 episodes all at once? Okay, let me see. And the first one is just Church on Ruby Road. I'm like, you already dropped that. That's not that's not the premiere. What are you doing, Disney Plus? It is, I think, for anybody that didn't already watch it though, that's definitely the first one you should watch. Followed by because if you only watch like the first episode of this season, aka Space Babies, it is very much like it's still kind of introducing the companion to the Doctor, and so there's going to be some of that like general exposition stuff, but it's also like this is a weird filler episode that is the first episode. But then also the Devil's Cord, the second episode, like instant classic, incredible villain. Jinx Monsoon plays the character of the Maestro, and is just like all of the great kind of like up there with maybe like John Sims Sexton in terms of like memorable, immediately iconic kind of
Nice.
characters.
I'm excited.
Um, so yeah, shout out to Devil's Cord, which we will talk about more next week probably. And I don't think I watched anything else. That was probably it for me on Disney Plus this week. So yeah, stay tuned for more thoughts on that next week. That's going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk about X-Men 97 Season 1. You follow Cameron at Rev Cabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, you want to give a massive shout out to That Nerdy Site Show. I would have said check out the latest episode, but we didn't record one because I was sick. Yeah, like look forward to this upcoming week's one. I think that there's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about, but I'm just looking forward to that. I want to say, like, if you're like, hey man, I miss your guys' Let's Plays, we have a library. Please go watch those.
Sure. Yeah, you follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. In addition to shouting out that library of Let's Plays. We missed this week's that Nerdy Site Show. I don't know what next week's. I don't know what we'll chat about. I kind of want to go see If this weekend. The new John Krasinski movie. That seems like there's a little bit of like merriment and wonder in it, so maybe I'll go see that. Because otherwise, I've just been playing more and more Fallout 4, and I don't have a ton of new other stuff to say about that compared to our episode a few weeks ago.
Here's the thing: they put Dave the Diver on PS Plus, and so
Sure.
I have been playing Dave the Diver.
The other thing, everybody was going crazy for Animal Well, so maybe I'll try and I've downloaded it. Maybe I'll try and sit down with Animal Well this weekend. So I'm sure we will come up with something to talk about for this weekend, indeed. Stay tuned for that on this next week's That Nerdy Site Show. And then, again, next week's That D Plus Show, almost certainly going to be the Doctor Who episode, now that Doctor Who is on Disney Plus, and that continues to be a weird thing to say. But great for this show, because we are all Doctor Who fans. So, yeah.
Yep.
All right. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you like what you heard, please remember to like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other. Class dismissed. And to me, my X-Men.